Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deborah Arthur, and I'll be moderating today's panel discussion on how African AI communities are securing funding for sustainable growth. And we are going to explore how some African AI communities are attracting funding and some of the challenges that they've been facing so far. And we have 5 incredible speakers who will be joining us here to drive the conversation. Without wasting my time, I would briefly introduce the panelists as they join us on stage. Our first panelist is Randani Imuha, who is the co-founder of AfriClimate AI and an associate professor of actuarial science at the University of Manchester, United Kingdom. Could you please join us here? Our second panelist is in the person of Abdullahi Fahi, who is a senior machine learning engineer at Irudi and the general manager of Gaussian AI. Can we give a round of applause? Our next panelist is Dr. Justin Ngusaha, who is a senior lecturer at University of Douala. He serves as the vice president of Camer AI and is the secretary of Indaba X Cameroon. Could you please join us here? And last but not the least, we have Tejudin Gwadabi. My apologies for the mispronunciation. He is a programs manager and monitoring and evaluation lead at Masakani Africa Language Hub. He plays a central role in ensuring the success of impacts of the Hub flagship projects. Okay. Our last panelist is Jeremiah Olamishohun, who is the executive director and chief scientist of the African Intelligence Lab. He also serves as the chairman and group CEO of Ituhuku Limited. Could you please join us? Can we give them a round of applause? Okay.
Oh yeah, so we at AfriClimate AI, we work at the intersection of climate and AI, but what we really focus on is to close capacity and data gaps that are persistent in the area of applying AI for sustainability and climate in Africa. At the moment, we focused on in the realm particularly of weather forecasting in terms of technology transfer and we'll chat a little bit more about that of sort of like state-of-the-art weather forecasting models while also addressing sort of like prevalent data challenges over the continent. But again, capacity gaps and data gaps and climate and AI.
Yes. Thanks, Deborah, for the introduction. So I'm the general manager of Gaussian AI. So Gaussian AI is an AI community that was created in 2018, and the goal was to have a platform that can help people that are working actually currently in AI, because at this age, the AI debate was absent in Senegal. So we didn't have like community or platform that can help people to have access to knowledge, to training, and all resources needed to leverage AI. So that's why we decided to create Gaussian AI to offer people this platform. And at the beginning, we were just doing basic events like meetups, learning section, and also communication. We have created a communication panel that help people to communicate and discuss around subject like around AI. And we also have our first milestone. We hosted the Deep Learning Indaba X in Senegal in 2019, just 1 year after the creation of Gaussian AI. It was the first AI major event in Senegal. And we also organized our first hackathon that was done with one of the major telco operator in Senegal named Expresso. And it was a competition about predicting churn. And it was also the first AI use case that they experienced, and we did this with this community. So basically what we were trying to do was to create a platform that will help to democratize and vulgarize AI in Senegal and West Africa.
Thank you very much. So Africa Intelligence Lab happens to used to be a small research community within the Ituhuku group. And we set out to commercialize AI. So not just having AI solutions and in the research lab. And so we had a dedicated research department within the Etioco group. However, in the past 2 years, we observed that AI is still limited in Africa because everybody keeps holding this AI solution and the data set and the research around it because everyone is scared of being beaten. So we decided to open up Africa Intelligence Lab so that other researchers can also join in and also solve problems, and we can easily collaborate across Africa.
Yes, thank you. I'm Justin Moscolai, Secretary General and Project Manager of Indaba X Cameroon. So we are a group of lecturers, researchers, PhD students, and also master students and Cameroonian in diaspora. So in Indaba X Cameroon, we will try to build excellency around AI in Cameroon. First, we also try to create the leadership and to build a very, very big community who will help the government and society to solve the local problem that we have in Cameroon.
Yes. So Masakane started as a grassroots organization, and the first meeting or the conceptualization started at an Indaba in Kenya. So it's mainly rooted as a community organization that is interested in NLP. So it has all researchers, enthusiasts, linguists, anybody interested in NLP is part of the Masakane community.
Okay, yeah, so a little bit about the funding that we're very grateful for from Google.org. What we're looking into is a project we call Focused for Africa. And the idea is that, we all know that, there's sometimes it's called a silent revolution in weather forecasting, which is, with the more evolved weather forecasting architectures, you can now almost learn essentially, relationships within the state of the atmosphere. You can focus the weather using, very large neural networks. But what we have been seeing as a community is that these models are built and evaluated on global, particularly reanalysis data sets. And there's a big gap to sort of, close that gap between evaluating their true performance over the continent, where perhaps the data is scarce and is not well assimilated in the analysis and reanalysis products, to build localized models that leverage, the ongoing pace of progress in weather and climate forecasting. So the project is about, building a toolkit to fine-tune, global weather forecasting models, which are in the medium range forecasting. So we're thinking a range here of 1 to 10 days out in terms of lead time. We're going to start in South Africa in partnership with, of course, the key institutions that work in the area. That is the South African Weather Service and the Agricultural Research Council. And of course, as I mentioned before, there are significant data gaps that need to be closed in terms of increasing weather observation infrastructure and its reliability. And part of the support is to, again, create open data sets by deploying automatic weather stations in the region. So in summary, that's that. And again, as I mentioned before, that talks directly to our mission and vision to close this capacity gaps in terms of localizing these models, in terms of building local capacity to translate them into local action and insights. But also, again, as I mentioned, create open data that fuels research in many other directions within the community more broadly.
So we recently received funding from Google.org. And if you remember, I mentioned that Masakane is organized as a community and everybody is part of it. So what we did is to now create a hub. With that hub, it's then used to now be a drive for the Masakane as an organization to now sub-grant to the ecosystem. We have 2 major projects with Google.org, and we'll be announcing more about that on Friday during the Voices of Africa NLP workshop.
So we have the AI Hub. So as I said, Galsen AI was created as a community, And we also see that we needed to have maybe another structure that will have more impact. That's why we created the AI Hub in partnership with other communities and other actors. And the AI Hub was able to raise funds in partnership with the Embassy of France in Dakar, and in order to implement a project named Send Hub AI. The goal of the project was to support the ecosystem, AI ecosystem. And one of the challenges that we were facing were in order to bring together all these actors, because in order to conduct this program, you have to collaborate with institutions, universities, companies, etc. It's not easy to bring them together to work in the program. And also, the other challenge was in the administrative task, because in this program, you will have limited budget dedicated to people that will conduct the program. And we know that this kind of program needs a lot of diverse profile, and this is a limitation. And the other challenge was the maturity of the ecosystem, because the ecosystem is still at early stage. To give just a concrete example, in the program, they have an internship fellowship that is designated to students that have just graduated, to let them have the opportunity to be inserted in company. And we were having issue to have to identify a company that will accept the people to do AI related project. Now that was because the ecosystem, as I said, is at the early stage, is still building. So this is also one of the challenges that we are facing by conducting this project.
I see this more complementary, right, than a versus thing. So I see government funding more as a catalytic capital. It helps you to just de-risk. It helps you to just build something, prove the concept. Then I see more of your philanthropy, just more helping you just have a wider reach and just helping you, build more on a longer term. But the most important one, which I'm more of a fan of, right, which is the venture capital funding, that actually plays a big role, which unfortunately in South Africa, there isn't so much of that. But at the end of the day, venture capital really helps you to scale and scale so well. If you look at some successful AI communities, let me say the most successful one, for example, even if it's not a community, an AI from a startup, OpenAI, you'll notice that the reason why they've been able to grow so big and large is because of venture funding. There's a huge amount of money that is sitting, just with venture capitals, and they really want to fund. For African AI communities, unfortunately, the government funding is not so much there. Except in a few countries, South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, and a couple of other countries. But for African AI startups, the most viable and feasible ones that I see are the philanthropic funding, which can really just help you to start out and build your concept. And once you can prove it and also have some strong philanthropists backing your solution, it's easy for venture capitals, to actually come in and help.
I think it's a real problem that today we don't have too many loan funding for companies or government. So, for example, in our community, we try to put in place now the sustainable solution and project which can show to the founders that this solution in long term will have a higher impact to the society. For example, in education, we can put in place some solution based on AI model to help students, or in the healthcare system, or for example, in the urban management system. if you have this kind of project, a sustainable project, in long term, we can find also the funding corresponding of this project. But the risk also is very huge for founder. That you can put this kind of project in different steps. For example, we can start with a small part of the project, and then we can take another stage, and like this we can put in place the really sustainable solution and find also the founders corresponding at this project.
I think the main thing is collaboration and identifying what you're good at. So for example, with Masakani as a community that is interested in NLP, the main organization is not heavy on innovation and building products. Here we have seen others that are more into that. So understanding what you have as a community, how you can collaborate with others to define your values, and also that will feed into what each other do. Instead of, for example, a research, a product innovation organization having to go through data set collection, model building, they can partner with a more research-oriented organization to now think about that, and then they create partnership. The innovation part would go out there and either have that as a product, whether business to business or business to customers, and in return, there will be some form of funding that will go back to the research part of it in order to develop more. And as well, we know that in order to scale up and have a better possibility of success, we need more community approach. We need to have solutions that are targeting communities, and that means that we can as well collaborate with communities to now think about what would be the right product fit and what will be the right direction of research that will impact the African communities.
Yeah, look, I think perhaps it relates to this panel when it relates to funding and sort of, either a startup or even as a community. I think what becomes really important, which sometimes is a bit of an irritant when you're starting a community because you've got a mission, a project you're quite passionate about, is the governance piece, in the sense that, when you start raising funding for projects and being able to sort of, sustain your organization, you need to be able to present to whoever is going to support you that, there's going to be some fiduciary duties around managing the funds that you're given. And that's something that often comes as an afterthought as a community. So I think that's something that, as you're starting out, whether you need a board, whether you need a fiscal host like, the Indaba sometimes is able to do that. But I think that's a key advice, because that allows you to then become sustainable very quickly. So I think governance is something that you should pay close attention to.
Yes, I think the advice that I would give to AI community leader that are willing to have their first grant will be maybe to collaborate with experienced partners that have experience in grant management, or to collaborate also as a consortium with other partners. Because as said, grant management requires a lot of administrative and organizational work. And if you partner with experienced people that already did this work, you have more chance to success on. We did the same in the AI Hub. We find a partner that helped us to manage all the administrative tasks. And we could focus on more the thing that we know well to do. And this will also help us to gain more experience in how this grant management is handled, and to do it in the next time when we are submitting for the grant.
So the one advice I would say is collaborate. Collaborate with fellow African researchers, with experienced people, collaborate with academic institutions. One of the successes which we have had is, while we were starting out, there were a couple of some brilliant AI researchers, but grantee or grantors want to know you would be able to manage the funding that is being given to you. So it's not just about your brilliant idea. If you have an AI idea, the high possibility is that it's brilliant, it's fundable. But then grantors want to see that you have experienced people who can manage the grant. So if you've seen people that have done, that have gotten other grants, that have managed other large-scale projects, reach out to them and collaborate instead of sitting in silos.
Okay, based on my experience in Indaba X Cameroon, so I will encourage the different communities to collaborate with the other communities. For example, in Cameroon, we collaborate with many other communities, to collaborate also with universities, companies also, and why not the different funders, international funders, who will help communities to grow up and to attain their objectives.
For me, I would say first define your value. When you define your value, then you know the type of collaborations you can go into. That helps you to also define what type of funding you can apply for, what type of resourcing you can look for. And I think it helps to now have clarity in the future. A lot of collaborations would come up that might not really align with the value of a startup. So if you don't have that value definition at the beginning, then you spend a lot of time determining in the future whether you take those or not, and you try some and then they fail because at times you did not take the time to define your value at the beginning. So to me, define your value at the beginning.
Hello, everyone. My name is Demba. I'm from the Gambia. I have two questions that I want to ask. In an AI-averse and resource-constrained environment, how do you convince the stakeholders to invest in AI? And then how do you select projects to ensure guarantee despite high cost? And my second question is, having too many AI ideas or being given too many AI ideas, how do you select, efficiently the most demanding and, and the most impact, for your community and your business? Thank you. I said in an AI averse, meaning not much people are involved, and the resources are constrained. How do you, convince the stakeholders, meaning other organizations and the government, to invest in an AI? And if it's happened, then how do you select projects to ensure guarantee success? Because AI is expensive, to make sure the project does not fail. That was the first question.
If this is working. Yeah, I think you raise important question, because I think at the end of the day, communities often want to build for their communities, which makes it a little bit more for the stakeholders, if I put it that way. And I think, one model at least that we are looking into is a model of co-development, in that, for a solution to be sustainable, it has to be used by, broadly by either big government stakeholders, but the people who it's relevant to, particularly if it's an applied AI program. And that means onboarding them essentially when you conceive your solution, when you design it, and so on. And you're right, there's also constraints and resources in terms of, how do you convince stakeholders? It's often mission alignment and needs alignment between, in many cases, it's a tripartite issue where you'd have, the community in terms of, the communities that are here, the funders, and against, I'll call them, the communities or the stakeholders who the solution has an impact on. And when there is an alignment between those three parties, you can get something fundable and it can be sustainable.